Fiona's telling us 9 p.m. is too late, but you know what? I don't know. Maybe we can go a little bit earlier, but 9 I think is a sweet spot because kids are in bed. If you have little ones, you got them to sleep. But Fiona, we'll do better next time. Maybe we'll do an early show here. But Thursday's 8 p.m. Hey, it has been a strange week for the Mountaineers for basketball, both basketball teams, men's and women's. Mountaineer football team falls short, but even though I feel good about the win or the loss, they never really in it, but they were competitive. We'll talk about that at the end of the show, going into Texas Tech. But to start off the show, Eric, we don't usually talk about it's like a holiday mixed bag of nuts. We're going to talk about everything with the Mountaineers, just because there's so many things going on. Yeah, Fiona, my wife gets up early. She gets in bed at 9. So hang with us for about 45 minutes, Fiona. We have a lot of fun stuff to talk about. So, Eric, you are last year, I don't know about this year, but are you a season ticket holder for the women's program for basketball still?
Last year. Did not renew this year. Yeah.
Okay. Did you happen to catch, it's been all over the news, West Virginia beating Duke. Now, Duke was 15, and that's a big deal.
Oh, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But what makes this a big deal is the fact that, was there some sort of scuffle? I watched it. Little pushing and shoving. West Virginia gets 6 players ejected. Duke gets 1. West Virginia plays the rest of the game with 5. 5 players. One of them had 4. 4 fouls. She played almost half of a quarter with those fouls. And I was just blown away. I had to literally, I had missed it. I went back and watched it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just.
When was the last time you went back and watched a replay of a women's game? No offense to the ladies.
I don't think I ever have. And that Iowa game, they played tough as nails, and the refs screwed them last year when they had Caitlin Clark. Was that 2 years ago?
Exactly. Maybe a handful of times, but this is definitely one that was worth it.
Now
I've heard it touted as the miracle at the Greenbrier.
Perfect. Miracle at the Greenbrier is right. 3 guys before the game didn't do it justice. They all kind of chimed in and said, yeah, it was great. But that might be an overreach. It's not an overreach, guys. It literally is probably one of the most storybook endings for any sport. Yeah, it's up there with like Franco Harris Immaculate Reception. It's like, I sound like a nut, but to play a ball game with only 5 players and to beat a top 20 team, top 15 team is something. And they just didn't beat them, Eric. They fed them their lunch.
Yeah, it was a solid win. They had control of that game the whole way through. We lost our star player in Harrison. She's a phenomenal guard. And she's spunky, man. She does not have back down in her. So when she had her shot blocked at the end of the half, and the defender got in her face, started chirping, she had no problem answering that call. But yeah, at that point, a lot of whistles blew, and we had players leave the bench. And once you leave the bench, there's no question.
Yeah, hard. I think Rich Rod has went out the door a little bit for the Russian game, and then the women's basketball team picked up, and Coach Kellogg said, "Oh, wait a second, we'll show you some hard edge. I got some ballers here. They're going to rock it for the last half. We're gonna run who we have. You're not going to foul out. You're going to still play good defense, and we're going to stick it to them." I wasn't going to talk for 2 minutes on this, but I'm sorry. It's that good, guys. And if you haven't seen it, go back and watch it. And
definitely worth it. And remember, we did this coming into the season unranked. We were unranked at the time. We are ranked now. Well deserved. Well done, ladies. And Sydney Shaw and Riviere, heroes in that game. Riviere just a force under in the paint and grabbing rebounds. She was showing signs last year. You saw signs of it, carrying it on into this season.
Well, let's stay on the basketball tip, but let's go to the boys. And the only reason we're bringing this up because this is just big time news. Big time news, and you probably heard it, but West Virginia has a 5-star point guard for the 2026 class. This young man, Miles Sandler, committed. West Virginia beat out Maryland, Eric, Oklahoma, Tennessee, UCLA, and USC.
Big boys.
We talk about that on the show, Eric. We talk about how when West Virginia, and I'm saying even if you don't get the player, if they're in the conversation and West Virginia's in the top 4, top 5, along with these storied programs, that says a lot about your recruiting. You're going in the right direction. You're not competing against UCF and UCF and Middle Tennessee. Miles Sandler is the best recruit in football or basketball if you just go by the score. And it's like he has a .9906 something, it's high. Oscar Tshiebwe was a .980 something 22 or something, whatever. But that's how big of a difference it is. From 4 to 5 is just, just a hair. Man, that's crazy. I mean, for them to get that type of talent and also for the program to beat Pitt like a drum, I mean, that's big.
Well, a lot of the other programs you mentioned in there, if you're competing against programs that, you've played on your schedule and maybe they play, programs that are power programs in the basketball world, that's a great thing. You're beating, teams that play other teams. But when you're beating other teams in a recruiting game that have national championships, that have established program, like I think you mentioned a school, there might have been a California school in there. They go with some gold and blue as well.
Right.
Who was that? That's the one. You might have heard of them. What's that?
USC was in the mix also.
Well, absolutely, but I want to focus on UCLA. I mean, if you talk basketball legacy, you might have heard of a guy named John Wooden. He's still remembered in a lot of awards. He wrote a few books. He even talked about geometry. I think it was pyramids. Yeah, there you go. That guy knows a thing or two about basketball. That program's well established. We beat them out. This is big news for us. I don't like to put too many apples in a basket, and especially not with recruits, because there's a lot of things that have to work out. I don't care how well you're regarded or how poorly coming into making that transition to the next level. Always difficult, but as people will tell you, if you want to elevate your program, you got to have great talent. And certainly this guy, he's as good as we've ever started with.
Well, talking about talent, let's close up the recruiting with Pat Mack, the talented Pat McAfee. If you don't know who he is and you've been under a rock in, I don't know, if you're a West Virginian through and through, you know who Pat Mack is, because every time they'd kick a field goal, 15 years ago, say, nice one, Patrick. Yeah. You'd have SpongeBob come on the screen. But Pat McAfee is having Kevin Brown announce on his show tomorrow where he's going to play ball. Eric, where do you think he's going to pick?
It's anybody's guess. I don't think that there's any inclination. He hasn't really tipped his hand. You really can't tell with this cat. Yeah, I'm kidding, of course. Yeah, there's no doubt. 99% he's coming to us. So well done. I mean, this is a time in the program's history. It reminds me of like the 1980 time period. We made a heavy investment in the football program at that time. 1970, we had done the same with basketball. This is that kind of time period. We're talking about elevating the facilities. We did it in basketball, doing it in football, and we're investing in the athletes themselves now. Uh, this is this feels like we're on that cusp, as we've been talking about. The notion that it'd be great to go to the big schools that have umpteen different national championships and to just win regardless of who they got coming through that door. You'll be another face in the crowd there, or you can come here and you can help us elevate to enter into that audience to become part of those who are doing that sort of thing. And that's what I'm looking for Kevin to do.
Yeah, and I'm telling Fiona to just hold on a second. Just no. James Franklin's not going to get him down to Virginia Tech. Not when Daddy Brown played for the Mountaineers. Pat Mack's having him on the show. Pat Mack didn't have him on the show. I might be saying, oh, Fiona might have something, but I think Patty Mack having him on the show is the nail. It's going to nail it down there. I mean, you have Pat McAfee. He can talk the talk. He can wrestle, a little bit of wrestling at WWE. He can announce. He can, actually have kids kick. Maybe have Brown kick a field goal, and if he misses it, he has to go to WU. Right? I don't know.
There's 3 programs I would have told you if you would have asked a different question, slightly different, said, "Hey, where is Kevin not going?" I would have given you one of 3 schools, 2 of which would have been out of the question. Pitt, because there's no way Pat's going to have any. That's not going to happen. It wouldn't have been Syracuse either because Pat might have some harsh feelings about them too. Mm-hmm. And most definitely, the other one is Virginia Tech. Those are 3 of our. They still have some bitter feelings. Not going to any one of them. Now, one, I think if someone were to say, what is the second possibility? And I'll say it's a possibility, but it may be a 0.1%. Maybe UNC, but I don't know. He's coming to WVU.
I don't feel it.
Yeah, that's what I heard the same thing.
They're really tanking this year, not having a good year. But
no,
I'm going to say this: it's looking good for the Mountaineers recruiting from top to bottom, no matter what sport they are. They're doing well. Soccer had a little bit of a hiccup against in-state rivalry, Marshall. I wish Marshall well. I hope they win it all. But son of a gun, that was a close one too. Anyway, that's enough. We did 15 minutes on all the sports, recruiting, and it's time to talk a little bit about the last game, about the Mountaineers against Arizona State. Then we'll talk at the very closing of this show about Texas Tech. Now, the Mountaineers aren't going to be bowling. It's very, very slim chance they have to beat Texas Tech, and the moon and the star have to line with Venus. Venus has to descend, and whatever your horoscope is telling you, that's lying. Eric, overall, do you think West Virginia was in the game at all, or just towards the end of the game? I mean, they were ahead at the end for a brief period of time, but my feeling is they weren't really. They were always looking like they were just trying to catch up, and then they scored on that big play, and then they got ahead. But in my feeling, I just didn't feel like they had it under control.
I'm going to go Old Testament on you. Mm-hmm. A lot of people probably thought that David, what is this kid doing? You got Goliath out there. Look at the size of that spear. David's playing with rocks. What is going on? No. I think honestly we had limited options throughout that game. Dior Hubbard, I think, has been playing injured. I don't think he could go very much. Scotty Fox has been playing injured too, and he's done a phenomenal job. So I think that the game plan was do enough to stick around, and at some point you're going to catch that break. And if you can do it at the end of the game, maybe sneak out of there with a win. At least it's what it seemed like to me. I think that actually could have worked. The problem was the game was just so tight, so close.
Yeah, that interception to the end was a heartbreaker, but the Mountaineers almost came just close to pulling it off. Man, that just like Rich Rod was so not despondent, that's not the word, but just frustrated. You can see the angst. Like he's like, if we could just do, and it was just his he couldn't even articulate. He's like, listen, this is the game comes down to about this much real estate. And that's the truth. They're the fourth down, the 2 fourth down plays stick in my memory as, and everybody can go and say, oh, you should have kicked for the points. At the time, you're trying to establish dominance because the first quarter, I think the Mountaineers looked like they were world beaters, like they were going to control this game. But the score didn't really match up to what happened on the field for that first, I would say 20 minutes, 18 minutes, a quarter plus.
Well, and in the second half, that's when Arizona State made their money.
Third quarter, yeah.
No, the second quarter. That's when they scored they scored their points then.
Yep.
And we were talking about this earlier. The notion that if we go for the points at either of those two four down goal line stands for Arizona State, you come away presumably with 3 points. And in the first case, I think I probably, not just playing hindsight, I probably would have, just because at that point in the game, that's always been my strategy. Earlier on, you go for the points.
At least one of the 2 times, yeah.
The second point in the third quarter, no, I probably, if it would have been playing on the Xbox or whatever, I probably would have tried to gone for the points, because at that point in the game, you didn't look like you were going to be able to move the ball successfully too many times on this defense. So I think I can understand going for it. And the thing that really killed me, you were saying it, man, I had chills. Felt like I was sitting there watching Any Given Sunday again. Pacino's giving the speech, only he looks like you. And I'm thinking, man, this guy's good. It's a game of inches. It's a game like, 1 second too fast, too slow, you don't make it. It really is. That's not cliche. The play we ran, I think it was either second or third down on the second goal line. We had a tight end leak out, he just got his foot tangled up. And if that doesn't happen, and when I say he barely got his foot tangled up, it's just hard to say.
Either a sniper or the grass monster got him and bit him in the ass and fell down. That's unfortunate, but I mean, it was fun to watch, and I think I'm so happy that they're competing just based off the fact that we forget 4 weeks ago, as fans, we were despondent. We were like, what the hell's going on with the program? And here we are, won a game, competitive this game, looking to forward to the next week. There's some things to build on. Now, we talked about this briefly, and I'm going to talk about this. You would think that the Mountaineers would have some sort of scheduling control over when they get their bye week. What the hell use is getting a bye week the week before the last game?
I looked at that too, because I sure would have loved to have had that bye week this past weekend. Right. We definitely needed it. We are scraping bottom, and nothing against the players who were on the field, because they played their guts out. But it would have been nice for them to have had some extra help that probably will be available for the Texas Tech game with a little rest. That being said, I think the only reason I could even come up with is TV runs the game now a lot more than we'd like. So there's probably something there. But also, too, if things had gone better this season, I think everybody knew, and again, we talk about the carousel. So the idea of who's going where, the people who are in the know, they know who's going to be playing next season where. I think a lot of people knew last spring Texas Tech was probably going to be special.
Right.
So things have gone better for us this season, and we had maybe surprised. Let's say we came away with 3 more wins. Where we would be sitting in the conference would be entirely different. And so the notion that you might have wanted this week to get ready for Texas Tech, give you an extra week to prepare, do some strategy work, get some people some R&R, but it just didn't work out that way. And so, yeah, here we are with an extra week. And quite honestly, I'm going to be happy to get the extra week of recovery. Like we were saying, so many players are banged up.
Yeah, West Virginia, man, I think they had 68 yards on the ground, and it wasn't. I think the lowest of the season, or maybe second. I think it was the lowest of the season, but the longest run they had was a 14-yarder from Scotty Fox, who's dinged up. Dior Hubbard, he is the walking wounded. Like every time I see him get hurt, he comes off. I think he's done, but then he rolls back in like Larry Bird in the playoffs, and just. But still, the Mountaineers just couldn't get that run game going, and it's going to be a hard road to hoe against Texas Tech. But Fox was sacked and he was tackled, and that really kind of rolled up the negative rushing yards. Okay, so
Mm-hmm.
Fox was forced to sling the ball, which is not a bad thing because I think he's threw for 353 running there, 2 touchdowns. So
Yeah.
31 times he had to put it up in the air, and man, one of the touchdowns was one of the long. You said was the second longest or fourth longest in history?
Fourth longest in program history.
Fourth longest. So throwing it that much, Rich Rod does not feel comfortable, and you could tell at the end of the game he did not like. That's not the way he likes to roll. He likes to be like a 40-60 split. And he has said all year the identity of this team is just running the ball. And obviously, he was fed up in the presser. And he's like, we couldn't pick up 1 or 2 yards here and there. And I felt that, and he said it. And what's funny is we're not getting coach to speak from him. He's saying exactly what I'm feeling, and that makes me feel better as a fan. What about you, Eric?
I'm sorry, I'm laughing. I had the same reaction because you're used to Rich playing the game. Rich is outstanding at playing the game with the reporters. And he's shown that he's been a little direct about it actually at times this year, where he's come out and said, no, I can't answer that question. If I tell you, then the other team knows.
Right.
And, so Rich is usually pretty good with handling the press, but he's been pretty honest this year. And quite honest, I was looking at us from the very get-go to throw the ball to open up the run to, that it was going to be a little backwards. But no, you're right. This season he's held true. He's really tried to, statistically speaking, we have tried to be a run first team.
And I'm thinking backyard brawl. They won on a rushing touchdown, right?
Mm-hmm.
A Colorado game, they closed it up by just, grinding out a first down. And then West Virginia, I believe, ran pretty well over Houston.
Yeah.
So I think it comes to the fact that the depth chart, like they're literally, they got Jones off of defense to be their big power back, and he looked pretty good. He got a score there, but if West Virginia, man, if they would have just had that 3 points, their bowl dreams would still be alive and well. But going into this week against the Red Raiders are in hot pursuit, like in the lead for the Big 12. And man, it's the Red Raiders rush defense is stellar. And the fact that the Mountaineers are struggling now to run the ball, my optimistic outlook is dimming as we go through the show.
Well, I think you've had some optimistic and some bold predictions.
Yeah.
And let me throw something out before we get away completely from the from the Arizona State game. Whether it was because I would have liked to have seen a little bit more Curtis Jones. You don't have to run him just at the goal line. If he's got some good hands, no reason you couldn't have put him in a little bit more. I also think we might have been missing Gallagher a little bit. I don't know that he played the whole game.
I saw him in the beginning make a nice catch, and then that was it.
That was it. And then you saw his backup Bowie in, and Bowie did good. He did well. So that may have just been, cautionary. I'm not sure. But here's the thing I was going to get to. And not to call people out, and I'm not saying, this person's terrible, nothing like that. Sometimes, like we were saying, it's a game of inches, it's timing. And, things are happening so fast. Our running back runs into our own offensive lineman at the half-yard line. And clearly, if you take that offensive lineman out of that play, he's getting in. But he ran smack into our defense, our offensive lineman. And it just, physics is going to tell you he's going to lose that
That's
battle.
true. I forgot about that. Yeah, and I'm going to ask you, Eric, did you happen to watch any other Big 12? I watched here and there. I watched Texas Tech beat up on Central Florida, and it wasn't even close. They looked like world beaters. And then also BYU handed TCU a curb salad sandwich, 44-13. So, and of course Utah beat Baylor. All these teams, what they shared is they had it looked like they had like power forward numbers of 55, 48, and 44. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they Texas Tech and quite honestly BYU, they're punching people square in the mouth and then handing them back their chiclets, in a Ziploc baggie.
Yep.
I can't wait to see the two of them in the championship because that's just the way that's probably going to go down.
Yeah, Texas Tech is finishing up their season, with Mountaineers at home, and we all know that. And I saw that the Mountaineers have you can sit in the Mountaineer Maniac section for $45. So there are tickets that are available. So if you want to go grab some of those, go ahead. Weather's not going to be too terribly bad. It might rain a little bit in the early morning. I saw the forecast, but it's supposed to be okay by kickoff. Do we know what time kickoff is for that game in 2 weeks?
No, they opted for their 6-day window.
Okay, I was looking, I didn't see it, and I wonder if you maybe caught it. But
can I throw in 2 cents there?
Do it. Yeah, go ahead.
Thanks, man. I love the fact that you have keyed in all season long, and kudos because this is kind of like an underrated metric for your program. Not necessarily how they're doing, but just the health of the program, the interest. Ticket prices, you can't hide that. That information is available on the internet. It's not like somebody is spinning that somehow. It's a matter of if you want to go, here's the price.
Mm-hmm.
For a team that just had its heart broken, for a fan base that was just so hopeful, to still get $45 for a ticket, that's pretty good. And you combine that with the fact that for TV to exercise the 6-day window, they know that there's going to be significant interest in this game, such that they're going to want to make sure that it gets on the TV at the right time, not necessarily as a feature game, but they know there's going to be a lot of people watching it. So if there's a window where maybe you don't have, two top 15 teams playing, maybe you have a lesser window, second tier kind of window, we'll get that. Uh-oh. Shane, you're muted.
I'm muted. Sorry. The barometer of the health of an organization, I think, is ticket sales. It is for the NHL more than anything else because that's how they make their money. But for a college program, it shows interest, And if there's apathy, they're not buying merch at Walmart. You're not buying season tickets, and if they're not doing that, they're sure as hell not watching it on HBO Max or TNT, which is where the Mountaineers were playing last week. Now, why is that important? Because in order to play in the future, when there's a super conference, they're going to look at, how many eyeballs have seen this, because every week they put out a sheet that shows how the viewership for each one of these games. And you'll be surprised at how well some of the Big 12 schools do. But another Big 12 school that's doing well with eyeballs is Cincinnati. Cincinnati plays BYU this week. That's going to be a banger of a game. we'll talk more about the games coming up on Thursday's show. But I just want to say, Cincinnati wins, they're going to be playing in the Big 12 championship. BYU wins, they're going to be playing Texas Tech. I don't foresee West Virginia beating Texas Tech. I think Texas Tech's going to be playing in the Big Dance or the Big 12 Dance. You predicted BYU. I've predicted Texas Tech from the beginning of the season. But it's not hard to make that prediction when they're spending the kind of money they spend. Right? It's like, yeah, it's like the girl that has more money for, makeup, hair, dress, has all the crew around her making herself look pretty. And then, Cinderella there just has rats and, an ugly witch to kind of like make her look pretty. That's what I feel as a West Virginia guy. Like, we got mice with you've all seen Cinderella. It's a Disney show. Anyways, sorry. I don't have my Princess Cup here. I'd maybe cheat with that, but I drink from a Princess Cup on the show, and I have a pink chair, just so people don't take my shit. Stuff often walks away if you have nice things, but if you have princess things and pink things in a house full of guys, you don't have to worry about stuff disappearing. But
whatever excuse you need, buddy, we still love you.
I'm like, yeah, excuses. Those are good ones. So, what are your thoughts going into like a bye week? If you're Rich Rod, I mean, can you just establish a run game, or do you get your running backs healthy? A little bit of both. Is it scheme? Is it just I'm feeling good because 4 or 5 weeks ago we didn't have a quarterback. We have a quarterback thrown for 300 yards twice, 220 2 games ago. I don't know.
That's a great question. I love to fish. So a lot of times you'll be sitting there and you'll be fishing for the big ones, and you'll be, you're throwing a big bait. You're kind of wanting something that's intimidating. You don't want the little guys. And every once in a while, you'll get somebody it's, an up and comer, a plucky unknown coming out of nowhere, and their attitude is, I may not be able to whoop you, but I'm going to tear a chunk out of you. You'll remember me.
Ooh.
I promise you that is the message going into this game. And Rich isn't going to be, presenting it as if this game is lost. On any given weekend, there are upsets each week. So and out of all the Big 12 teams that have been pulling upsets this season, who's been upsetting people more than we have? There's no reason to think that we aren't going to be swinging hard. There's no reason to think that we're just going to go out there and roll over and lay down. Rich is going to be teaching his guys, make sure they remember us, make sure they feel our program. Those are his words before every game. I promise you that's going to be the thing. He's going to see who he can get healthy. He's going to see what opportunities lie ahead where he can take some shots, because this is our bowl game now, hypothetically.
Yeah.
What do we have to lose?
What a way to go out. You get to play against a top. I mean, they're 7 now. They might be higher. I don't know what the ranking is. Last week they were 7. But you're talking about a top 5 team coming into Morgantown. It's going to be an evening game. It's not going to be a noon game, guys. I really think it's going to be a 3:30, 4 o'clock game. That atmosphere in Morgantown, even though it's right after Thanksgiving, the school has allowed students to come back a day early so that they can spend the night in the dorm. So you're going to have a few students come back in. I don't think as many. If they would have won this week, there might be more. But with that, I think you're going to have a pretty good turnout. Of course, we've always been high on the product that's the atmosphere. And the product on the field is starting to come up to that level. If West Virginia plays the way they played in the first quarter against Arizona State, minus, the 4th down issues, they moved the ball well. They looked really dominant. They just couldn't push it through. If they could do that and score, man, and then have a couple nice defensive stops, the momentum of being home, it's gonna be a tough road for Texas Tech to kind of come into Morgantown and snatch one away. Because let's remember, guys, flying out into Morgantown from Texas it's a 2-hour flight. You got to connect, and you got to have a connecting flight probably. So these guys are not little guys to be packed into an airplane and flying. It's not comfortable. So there is something to be said for that. But at the end of the day, Texas Tech is a disciplined program, a top 10 program, and these guys can ball. So all bets are off.
I was going to try to raise the point that sometimes you can catch people sleeping. And I would say that about this game. And I know they're a top 5 team. We've caught top 5 teams napping before. I don't think it's going to be the case this time. Like you said, and this, quite honestly, this is why I didn't pick Texas Tech at the beginning of the season. It was like they were too good. They have a high payroll. They have a lot of talent on that team that I don't want to call them mercenaries. It's not fair, but they acquired a lot of talent over the during the off season. Getting that kind of high level talent and egos to kind of gel and for everybody to find their place and to accept their roles, that is not an easy thing to do. Texas Tech has found a way to do it. I don't think we're going to catch them napping, but everything, if you removed that context of that program, if you remove that from this scenario, I would say don't count this as a loss just yet. But it would be a long shot for sure. That being said, I'm still going to use the analogy of that little fish going after the big bait. I don't think we're going to be intimidated. We're going to come out swinging. What do we have to lose? We're going to make sure we take a chunk out of them and that they remember our names.
Yeah, and what 4 or 5 shows ago we had a title of the show, Vegas Knows. Vegas picked us at 5 and 7. So Vegas might know something that we don't know, and that would be that they're going to finish with 5 wins, 7 losses, and the only way they can do that is beating Texas Tech. So I don't know, Eric. We had a shorter show tonight, but hey, I have been under the weather. I had to call off work. Didn't start feeling good till 3. I was going to cancel, and I'm like, no, we got to do a show tonight. Eric, I'll tell you what, buddy, it's always fun. And guys, we're going to be here Thursday, so I know, watch us and rewind. Give us a thumbs up. This is the West Virginia live show on the Voice of College Football. Guys, you can watch Frank Fear Company on Wednesdays. Thursdays, we're going to be back. And then there's a pregame and a postgame show on game day. We won't have one this week because it's a bye week. But I want to thank you all for coming. Hey, chat, thanks for hanging out with us. Eric, any final thoughts?
Thanks for having me, buddy. Always good to be here, brother.
And hey, by the way, this is a football show. We just happen to talk a little bit about basketball recruiting because West Virginia is on fire. They're lighting it up. And I foresee there to be a lot of really good shows in January and February talking about just that. What's Rich Rod doing? Who's moving? Who's shaking? Who's going where? Who's transferring? Who is West Virginia going to keep? I don't know, but Hubbard is a sophomore. I think we keep him. He is a baller, and I really enjoy watching him play. Eric, thanks as always, guys. We're going to let you go with, as always, the state flag of West Virginia. Good night.